Welcome to the oldest spiritual podcast, the Bhagavad Gita Podcast. Hello friends, dear listeners, this is our first Bhagavad Gita podcast, the book I relished the most, Bhagavad Gita as it is, with commentaries from Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are many Bhagavad Gitas, hundreds, maybe thousands, but this Bhagavad Gita, I have to say, for my own personal taste, was the one who really transformed my life. And this Bhagavad Gita is also the most sold Bhagavad Gita in the whole world. You can find it in any library, universities, in any bookshops, online, even on the street. You can encounter a monk and you get a Bhagavad Gita right on the street in your hand. So this book has a very transcendental message for us. It can really uplift us from the lower modes of ignorance and passion. Even sattva guna means purity, to a transcendental vision, to a spiritual understanding who we really are. In my life, this book helped me the most. I tried meditation, I did yoga, tai chi, I did lots of chakra work. Many years I was a drug addict, I had problems with the law, and I faced so many challenges in my life. I read so many books, self-help books, I researched in the internet, I watched tons of YouTube videos, but nothing could really give me the understanding who I am. More than a decade ago, I met a monk on the street. He gave me 3 books. Ishopanishad, the most important Isho, the ruler, the supreme Upanishad from 108 Upanishads. He gave me the science of self-realizations. This book is about question and answers with a monk and different various people from the West, with doctor and police officers and a priest, just to have a spiritual exchange. And this book really convinced me. I was like, wow, there's really something deep in this knowledge called the Vedas. Veda, the word itself, means knowledge. We have Vedas from Ayurveda, the Veda for long life, the knowledge about long life. We have Jyotir, astrology. We have the Kama Sutras. We have so many different books about the Vedas, martial arts, astronomy. So everything you want to know is already existing in the Vedas. Everything is a reflection. It's the origin of all knowledge, especially of all spiritual knowledge. So I wanted to get another book. And in the Science of Self-Realization, Swami Prabhupada, he always talked about the Bhagavad Gita. So I went to a bookstore to buy the Bhagavad Gita, and they told me, no, it will take 1 or 2 months to order the Bhagavad Gita. So I thought, no, anyways, forget it, I will not buy it. So I was a little bit, upset. I really wanted the book. In that moment, a friend of mine called me, Tony, and Tony, he said, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm in a bookstore, I'm trying to find a book I got from a monk 1 year before, and now I would like to get another book like this, so I try to get this book. And then he said, yeah, I saw a monk today on the street next to Thalia, and Thalia is the bookstore I was in. And then he said, yeah, he distributed some books. And I was like, no way, I was running down from the shop all the way down, and there he was, the same monk I met exactly in the same month a year before. And guess what he held in his hand? 2 copies of the Bhagavad Gita. And I was approaching him already, like, I was Sri Krishna, and I got your books, and I read them, and 1 year later, and they're really nice, and I want to know more. I was on the way to buy the Bhagavad Gita, but the bookstore has no copy left. So there you are. Please give me a book. So he gave me the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and yeah, it really transformed my life. He gave me an invitation card, so I went to a spiritual program. They were chanting some mantras, the holy names of the Lord, the Maha Mantra. Mantra means what delivers the mind, and Maha means the great. So the great mantra of liberation, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And it was a little bit weird for me to enter. I remember I couldn't find the way. I didn't find the right spot. My mother called, you want to go there now or what? And I said, I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't go. And she was a little bit convinced, maybe it's a sect, maybe it's nothing for you, maybe it's, a little bit too much. But she pushed me to go so I can make my own opinion. So she's my first guru, basically. So finally, I found the place, and then I heard them singing, and I was a little bit insecure. Should I go? Should I not? So I waited outside, and then the lady came down and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Come join us." And I went inside, and I heard the chanting. I connected with the chanting in my meditation mood and connected with the heart, and something transformed. Something opened. Yeah, I could never in any meditation experience such a depth. So after this meeting, after this program, for 1 week, I heard this Hare Krishna mantra in my head. It didn't stop. And I was already reading the Bhagavad Gita. And in this moment, in this part of my life, I was a heroin addict. And I tried for many years to come out of my addiction, but it was not possible. But when I met the monks, I thought, hey, I want to become a monk too. These monks are really authentic. They are really elevated and nice and happy. I never saw in my life such happy people, really. And they were so authentic. So I wanted more. I wanted to be part of this gang. But I knew I'm so addicted to my drug addiction. Yeah? I was always looking for something higher, for God, for some love and some feelings. And I tried to find it in drugs when I was very young. Already with 13, 14 I started. And then I wanted to come out of it. I wanted to be spiritual. I wanted to be free from these shackles and these boundaries of drugs and all kinds of nonsense I did in this time. So it was a really difficult time for me. And I was really looking for an answer. I was really looking for a way out. And then I met these monks and this mantra. I got so much faith, but even more faith than from this experience I received from the Bhagavad Gita itself. Because this is not a normal book. This book is spoken by Lord Krishna. And Krishna, let me tell you, is none other than God. You might think now, wait a minute, it's God looks like this? No, God is one old man with a long beard. It's very crutchy and judging. Or God is some impersonal energy. God is love, God is light. And this is all true. I don't know about the part with the old man and the beard, but God appears in many aspects. Otherwise, he would not be God. So, this is a divine conversation between Krishna, God, and his dear friend Arjuna, the original podcast, 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And just to talk shortly about Bhagavad Gita, the word Bhagavan means someone who possesses all 6 opulences. He's the richest, he's the famous, he's the most beautiful, he's the most knowledgeable, he's the strongest, and he's the most renounced. So we in this world, we try to get these qualities. We try everything to be God. The whole universe turns around us. We are the most important person in this world, isn't it? Gita is song. It's the divine song of Lord Krishna. There's many books, even in the Vedas in India, in the ancient text, and in some books even God himself speaks. But in this book, 700 verses, almost all of them, at least the instructive ones, were spoken by God directly. So it's a conversation to us to know who we are, who God is, and what is our relationship to him. So it's very deep, it's very powerful. And we, like cheap Elvis imitators, we try to be Krishna, we try to be God. We want to be the famous, we want to be YouTube, I want to have millions of followers, isn't it? Yeah, we want to be acknowledged, we want to be respected. We want to be the most beautiful. Yeah? But Krishna, he's the most beautiful. Look at his creation, look at the flowers, even the human body. Everything is so nicely designed, the ocean, the beach, the water, the sun, the moon. And this is just his external features. What to speak of God directly. Imagine God appears right now in front of you. You don't have even the eyes to perceive this beauty. So we all try to be beautiful. We try to be famous. Yeah, but God is the most famous. Everyone heard about God, even the atheist, right? There's no one in this world who never heard a word about Krishna. It's so amazing because he is the famous. Everyone knows him. He is the strongest. He can, with his energy, lift all the planets in the whole universe. Yeah, everything is into place. The sun is exactly positioned in a way so that we have enough sunlight, enough warmth, and we're not freezing on this planet, but also not too much. And he carries all these planets. Amazing, no? He's the richest. He possesses everything. Everything is God's energy. You and me, this microphone, this camera, the studio, everything is God. And even though he possesses everything, he is the most renounced. He's completely detached. He's Atmaram, in himself satisfied. So this is Bhagavan, and there's only one Bhagavan, and this is Krishna. We are tiny little Bhagavans. Yeah? To some extent, we can also develop these qualities, but not in fullest, and not all 6 qualities perfectly. So you might ask, Krishna, a person, Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. He was a great king before he lived as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. You can even visit these places right now, and you can experience Krishna himself when you enter these holy places. And the people there, for them, is not just some fairy tale. This is real. And just for a moment, I want you to be open. Not just say, okay, I know this, I know that, I experienced this. No. What if this is true? What if Advaita Simha, what he's saying, makes sense? Because what I tell you now, I experience myself, and so many other people experience it. You can directly perceive God's divine power, because God is absolute. What means absolute? Everything is in him. He is everything. He has unlimited names. Hara, Krishna, Rama, Mukunda, Govinda, Yahweh, Jehovah, Adonai, Allah. We can't say, no, the only name is Jehovah. All the other names are wrong. No, God has unlimited names because he is unlimited big. You can't put him in a box. So he has so many qualities, and these qualities describe God, the Almighty, Krishna, the all-attractive, the source of all pleasure, the one who gives liberation. So all these names describe Krishna's beauty and transcendental form and majesty. So still, how can we understand that Krishna is a person? Look, you and me, we are a person, right? So if Krishna is absolute, it means he also is a person. Not a person like we think, like blood and flesh and bones. He is a spiritual body. How can we have something he himself doesn't possess? Then he would not be God. He would not be almighty. He would not be absolute. Because we have something more than him. Makes no sense, right? So everything we possess is also manifested in God. Or the other way around, is manifested in us because it is in God. And God appears in 3 features. Bhagavan, the personality. Paramatma, the super soul. So Krishna divides himself, he expands himself in all living entities, in all the universes, in all the planets, in each and any atom. He enters as the Paramatma. We are Atma, the soul, the self, and he's Paramatma, the greater self, the higher self, the super self, the super soul. And Brahman. You and me, we are Brahman, the spiritual energy. The whole creation is Brahman, is spiritual. We just think, because we separate us from the spiritual energy, we separate us from God, so we think there's something other than spiritual, and we identify with the body, the false ego, and then it becomes material. But there's nothing material in this world. Everything is Brahman. But there's only one Para Brahman. Para, he is the higher Brahman. We're just minute living entities, parts and parcels of the Lord. like you have the ocean and you have a drop. Qualitatively similar, but the quantity is such a big difference. So Krishna, his effulgence is the Brahman. The Buddhists, they worship the Nirvana, the impersonal aspect of the God. But it's completely okay. This is also a path. And you will enter into this impersonal effulgence. But then you get the desire to come back on planet Earth because we want to experience love, joy, relationship, exchange, feelings, emotions. This we can't have in an impersonal energy. Then we will only experience the eternity aspect, the Sat aspect of the soul, that there's no beginning, no end, but also gives you lots of pleasure. But it's very minute. You can't compare it to the relationship you have with a person, to a relationship you have with God. So the impersonalists, called the Mayavadis, they meditate about the impersonal effulgence, also Buddhists. And they will enter there. This is also a way. And it's perfect. Yeah? But there is perfect, there's more perfect, and there's most perfect. So the yogi, he meditates about God in the heart, the Paramatma. So he connects with Paramatma, already a little bit more personal, but still. The Bhakta, the devotee, he connects to the Lord in devotion, in service, in love, in relationships. And there's 5 kinds of exchanges. There's Shanta Rasa, neutrality. Dasya Rasa means the rasa, the mellow of service, the mood of servitude, what is the core essence of all the other rasas. Then we have Vatsalya Rasa, what means parental affection, that you feel like you have to serve the Lord in a way like he would be your child, or the other way around. Sakya Rasa means friendship or brotherhood, that God is your best friend. You play with him, you are his buddy, you're his best friend. Like Arjuna, he embodies Sakya Rasa. He was the best friend of Lord Krishna. And then we have Madhurya Rasa, conjugal love, to have a loving relationship. You're in love with God. Doesn't matter which gender you have. The soul in itself has always this exchange with the Lord. The Lord expresses these exchanges, and they're unique. With each individual, he has a unique exchange. Only once. With me, with you, it's completely different. He has a loving relationship with all of us. So this is the understanding who is Krishna. There's so much more to say. This was just a small nutshell. The Bhagavad Gita, the topics are so big. Politics, social life, dharma, your duty, morality, to renounce the world, to become a saint, to practice yoga, meditation. What is karma? What is this material world? What is the creation? What is the universe? Who is God? Who is Krishna? What are all these various forms of the Lord? What is the universal form? What is the soul? What means to surrender? What is bhakti? Devotion and love to God. So the topics of the Bhagavad Gita are really, really broad. Like everything you would like to know, you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. And even more, everything you heard of in spiritual life. This is the essence. Everyone talks about yoga, reincarnation, karma, meditation, but it comes from the Bhagavad Gita. We have here Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the essence of all the languages. English, German, originates from Sanskrit. For example, mana, the mind, manusha, the man, man, man. Yeah. Very similar. Daivi, divya means divine. Diva, divine, yeah. So it's very similar to our language. So we have here the Sanskrit, then we have here the Latin transliteration so that we can read the Sanskrit. We have a word for word translation. We have here the text, the meaning of the Sanskrit, and we have a purport so that we can understand what actually is said in this amazing book. And some might say this book is spoken by a bhakti yogi, so it's influenced by his vision, and to a certain degree it is true. That's why it's called Bhagavad Gita as it is, because the essence of this book is to develop love for Godhead, to surrender to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, he gave us the word-for-word translation that we can study it, that we can see what does it actually mean. In certain occasions, he calls it Krishna consciousness, where he said maybe yoga. But yoga means to connect to God. So the essence of yoga means to connect to God. And in many verses, this is also pointed out. So we read this book in the mood of a bhakta, of devotion. And the Bhagavad Gita is like a jewel box. Yeah? You have here the base, describes karma yoga, to renounce the fruit of your works. In the middle, 6 chapters, Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, first 6 is karma yoga, middle 6 is bhakti, the essence, protected, and then the lid of the treasure box is jnana yoga, the yoga of meditation and knowledge. But all of these yogas are connected always to bhakti. So it is a bhakti scripture. This book will really give us the understanding who we are. The 5 main topics, there's many topics, but the 5 main topics are Prakriti, the material energy. It's a great part of this book, describes which mode is influencing us. For example, when you eat, there's different modes: goodness, purity, passion, or ignorance. Depends what you eat. Yeah, for milk products, digestible foods, nourishing, what makes you happy. Mode of goodness, vegetables, fruits. Passion is everything sour and too salty and too spicy. Like you overindulge your tongue, you put too many spices. This is rajas, and tamas would be something dead, like meat. Yeah, so we have different modes. The way you dress, you have different modes. Represented by colors, like we have yellow, blue, and red. Yellow for sattvas or white, blue or black for tamas, red, orange for rajas, for passion. And like the colors are changing and creating the colors of the rainbow and all the colors we know, in the same way these modes are changing. The way you speak, the way you give donations, the way you act in this world, the way you sleep, everything you do is influenced by these modes. And these modes are called Prakriti, the material energy. And this is what binds us. And the Bhagavad Gita helps us to understand what binds us, that we can become free of these boundaries of the material energy. It talks about Jiva, the soul, the individual soul, Ishvara, the supreme, Krishna, supreme personality of Godhead, how to connect to him, what is our relationship. Then we have Kala, the time factor. Everything in this world is under the time factor. Everything is temporary, nothing is permanent. Yeah? And these 4, Prakriti, Jiva, Ishvara and Kala, they're all eternal. And karma is temporary, action and reaction. So this is the main 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. I mentioned before, there's so much more to know. It goes so deep. When you read the Bhagavad Gita every day, you get completely liberated from suffering. Each chapter has its own flavor. The first chapter is the Vishada Yoga, the yoga of grief and lamentation and depression. When you read the first chapter, you will get free from lamentation and sorrow and self-pityness. Because it was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna was supposed to fight. He is the mightiest warrior in history. He was supposed to fight against Duryodhana, his cousin, who was evil personified. But Arjuna changed his mind in the moment of the battlefield. And then he took shelter and asked Krishna to instruct him about duty, about the soul. He wanted to know what he should do. And this will be the topic of the next video, setting the scene of the Bhagavad Gita. I will explain you how this book came about, where it comes from, and why was it spoken on a battlefield, a holy book. We might get confused. So in the next podcast, I want to start with the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita to set the scene for all our future podcasts. It will not be only me talking, I will also invite many guest speakers. I have tons of friends, and from my monk life, I didn't mention, but after I read the Bhagavad Gita, I became a monk myself. I studied the book and went really deep. So in this time, I really learned to appreciate this book. Even now, I read this book every day. I read this book maybe 20, 25 times full, but I read every day one chapter without commentaries, just the texts, just the verses. And yeah, it's so amazing if you connect with the Bhagavad Gita. It gives you help in any situation. So I have many realized persons out in this world who are ready to speak and share their knowledge with us. So we have some Zoom meetings, some personal exchanges, and we try to really give the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita to you so that it is digestible. Because we think sometimes, oh, it's too much. How must I practice spiritual life? How must I have a relationship with God? But it's very simple. Like Prabhupada says, it is simple for the simple people. It's complicated for the complicated people. So thank you so much for tuning in. I see you next week. All the best. Bhagavad Gita, Ki Chai. Namaste. Hare Krishna.